guys, it's me, Claire. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So I'm here today to do my Monster High Readathon announcement video, as well as the TBR for the Readathon. So let's get going. So first things first, the Monster High Readathon is a readathon I created last year that I wanted to base around my love of Monster High. Not the reboot, because the reboot is kind of bad. I mean, I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. So yeah, the original is where it's at, if you're asking my opinion. So I wanted to base a readathon around that, and for last year, the prompts I did were around the 5 main characters: Frankie, Cleo, Claudine, Laguna, and Draculaura. So I did prompts around those characters, 3 for each, and I actually got messaged by Joharra over from the Witchy Reader. I'll have her channel linked in the description, saying that she loved Monster High too and wanted to be a co-host for this year. So I said yes, and this year we are co-hosting. And luckily, the readathon is starting to get out there in the booktube world and book Twitter, and luckily, things are starting to get good. So, yeah, so for this time around, I chose 5 different characters, mainly side characters, not really like main characters like the other 5. So I chose Twyla, Deuce, Claude, Gulia, and Abby. So I'll go over the prompts for each, and then I will show you guys my TBR. It is a very precarious deck I have right next to me. It is almost gonna fall over. Alright, so let's go. Alright, so first up is Twyla. So her first prompt is a book that lives in the shadows. Read an underrated book. So I actually had kind of a hard time choosing this kind of book because I don't really read underrated books, because I actually love watching Books with Chloe and Jamie's Library and Kate Literature on YouTube, and they have such amazing book recommendations. So most of the books I read are from them, and they are not underrated. They are very well known. So I thought about it a bit, and I realized I did have a book that didn't really have a lot of hype around it. And that book is Rebel Rose by Emma Theriault. So this book is basically a continuation of the Beauty and the Beast story. So after Belle and the Beast have stopped the curse and everyone's back to normal, they go on and live their life, but something is brewing, and it is not good. So it actually takes place around the French Revolution, which is very cool because I have no idea about that, and it was actually really interesting to see the history aspect of it as well as the fantasy. So I actually am really excited about rereading this. I highly recommend it if you love fairy tale retellings, or like retellings of any kind in general, or like continuations. This is definitely a good book for you. Alright, so next up is Signature Colors. Read a book with blue and purple on the cover. So Twyla, being the daughter of the boogeyman, she has a lot of blues and purples and teals, very dark colors, because she is associated with the shadows. And so the book I chose for this prompt is Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowen. And this book is one of my absolute favorites. I read it for the first time around the time Chloe from Books with Chloe was doing her reading a random book off her bookshelf for the very first time. And this is the book she chose. So amazing. So good. It made me cry. Literally made me cry. I could not stop. So if you are looking for a really good book that will make you cry on end, this is the book for you. Highly recommend. Alright, so the final prompt for Twyla is "Don't judge a bat by its wings," which is a quote she says in Fright's camera action. and that is read a book based only on the synopsis. So I decided to choose South Beach by Amy Friedman, and this is a series about two former best friends who go to South Beach together for spring break. And turns out that they both end up liking the same guy. So drama ensues. So I'm very excited to read this. All right, next up is Deuce. So for his first prompt, I decided to put Greece because he is son of Medusa, who is a Greek mythology character. And so the prompt is read a book set in an exotic world. And for this one, I chose Hollywood High by Nini Simone and Amir Abrams. And obviously, this is set in Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood is kind of over portrayed as exotic, I guess, but it, like, the way it's portrayed in this book, it seems very exotic. Like the luxury, the privilege, it's very, very cool. So this is actually one of my favorite series. I actually have all the books in the series, so definitely cannot wait to reread this. Okay, so the next prompt is Turn to Stone. Read a book that is 400 plus pages. And I have been on a major Shadowhunters series kick lately, so I decided to finally pick up Clockwork Princess again. So I'm only up to chapter 8 in this. So far, I've tried to read it. I just haven't found the time. So this is the perfect excuse for me to read it. This is the copy that my boyfriend lent me. So he actually lent me his whole Infernal Devices series. I've already finished the first two, and now I just have to finish this one, and it is taking me so long to get around to. So hopefully I can finish this in October. So the final prompt for Deuce is Medusa, read a book with green on the cover. And for this one, I chose Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, the Hammer of Thor, because it obviously has green on the cover, and I actually have been wanting to continue reading the Magnus Chase series ever since I finished The Sword of Summer. It was really good. I cannot put it down. I cannot wait to see what happens next with Magnus and the others. So the next character is Claude, and the first prompt is Werewolf. Read a book where a character has to go through a major transformation. So for this one I chose Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter by Seth Grahame-Smith. And basically this is about if the Civil War was caused by vampires and Abraham Lincoln had to become a vampire hunter in order to stop the Civil War. So history and fantasy, again, lovely mix. I read this before. It was really good. Slow-paced, but very good. All right, so the next prompt is Vampires and Werewolves, read a book with enemies to lovers. So for this one, I chose A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And obviously, Feyre and Tamlin start off as enemies, but they have to unite if they are to save Tamlin's kingdom from a very, very bad thing that is going to happen. So if you haven't read the Court of Thorns and Roses series, I definitely recommend you read it. It is so good. I actually read Court of Thorns and Roses once, but I didn't end up liking it for some reason, so I am willing to give this book a second try. So the last prompt for Claude is Basketball, read a book with sports in it, and for this one I chose The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas, and this is basically a thriller about a town where the school's cheerleaders got murdered, and the main character's sister was the last to die in a suicide. So obviously it's a thriller. It is I haven't really heard much about it actually, so I'm not really sure what happens in this, but it definitely seems like a really good thriller vibe, and I am looking forward to reading it. So next we have Gulia, who is the daughter of the zombie. And for her first prompt, we have smartest school in school, read a book that taught you something. So for this one, I chose A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. So this is the first-hand account of the sinking of the Titanic. So this story actually comes with, so Walter Lord actually interviewed the survivors of the Titanic and wrote down their tale, and then this book was formed. So this actually gives first-hand account of the night the Titanic sank from the survivors themselves. So this is really interesting to see it from the actual survivors' perspectives. Alright, so the next prompt is Zombie Speed. Read a book that is slow-paced but still entertaining. For this one, I chose Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. I had read this before. It did take me a bit to read because it is chonky, as you can see, but it was still very entertaining. It obviously has some part to do with vampires and Dracula in some way, so I'm very happy to be rereading this. And obviously, perfect read for October, spooky season, vampires, what more could you ask for? So the third prompt for Gulia is Dead Fast, read a comic or graphic novel, and I actually meant to add manga to this. So manga is allowed. So for this one, I am reading Rosario and Vampire Volume 1 by Akihisa Akita. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, it's a Japanese name, so Rosario and Vampire is a manga, but it is also an anime, which follows a human boy, Skune, who accidentally enrolls in a school for monsters, and he has to learn how to survive long enough where he graduate. So obviously he meets a vampire named Mocha, but he also meets other monsters like a succubus, a witch, a werewolf, and lots of others, so highly recommend it. So last but not least, we have Abby, daughter of the abominable snowman. So her first prompt is The Truth Hurts. Read a book you are intimidated to read. And for this one, I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And this is actually a special edition, which actually has the letters that the characters actually like write in the book. So like this one right here is to Elizabeth from Mr. Darcy, and so it has like all the letters from the characters, and it's really cool. So I have been wanting to read this for a while now, but I have just been so intimidated to read it. I have watched the movie with Keira Knightley as Elizabeth, and I love that one. It is so good, highly recommend it. But the book I'm a little more intimidated to read because it has like very different language than what I'm used to in books. So I've never read a Jane Austen book before, so this is going to be a new adventure for me. So the next prompt for Abby is Ice Powers, a book set in the winter or has snow on the cover. And for this one, I obviously had to go with Conceal Don't Feel by Jen Kalanita, and this is a Frozen retelling. Obviously, you can't have ice powers and not think about Elsa, so obviously I had to go with this one. And I actually painted the edges a shimmery blue, so I'm very proud of that. I really like how it looks. And the last prompt for Abby is Himalayan Yaks, read a book with an animal, and I am going to go with Bunny by Mona Awad, and this obviously has a bunny on the cover, but it also has bunnies in the story, so obviously bunnies are going to be a vital part of the story. So that is it for my October TBR and Monster High Readathon announcement. So let me know if you guys are going to participate in the Readathon this month, or if you're thinking about doing it. Oh, I almost forgot. Life challenges for the Readathon. So there are going to be life challenges. So the first life challenge is to watch a Monster High movie. So yeah, so obviously you can watch a Monster High movie. So yeah, that's basically it. So let me know down in the comments if you're going to be participating and what you're going to be reading for October. All right, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.